going to trigger at 829.58 with a bracket of 7. With a bracket of 7. Hey, folks, I have to close the room and come back. It will take me 1 minute. So please don't worry. I will be right back. I apologize. Okay, give me a heads up that everything's fine, that you can hear and see. Okay, just let me know you can hear and see. One person just type in that everything's fine. Okay, so showing the bond setup. 829.58 on the trigger. Bracket is 7. Targets anywhere between 6 and 20. The stop is 12. And I am going to use the break even -3. I've got my label. And I'm going to check. I'm going to go back and double check. Okay. Put my time on 0. And I'm just going to do my usual bracket test. All right, so we have a nice manageable charts. So I'm just going to go back now and put the time back to 829.58. We have a bracket of 7. And we have targets anywhere between 6 and 20. Stop is 12. And you can use your target 1 stop move if you want to. You can trail. Yesterday we had a lesson in how to trail. What I need to do, don't forget, whatever you decide to do, make sure that your account is on the account you're trading, okay? And then your charts match that account, okay? So my bonds are ready to go. I've got some micro gold open. And I'm setting up a reversal trade for possible after the news. Remember, all you need for a reversal is a position and a target, okay? So I'm going to trade micros. I'm going to look for 40 ticks, and I'm going to use a 40 tick stop, and I'm trading. You decide how many contracts you want to trade on micros. I'm labeling it reversal. And that's if there's an opportunity after the news. I'll do that in my Top Step account after the breakout is over. Excuse me, that would be after the breakout is over. Although it's micros, it doesn't have to be, because my regular trade, if I'm hoping things go well and that we have a good trade. Now, I don't have enough room on this chart. Unfortunately, it'll have to do. And I've got my reversal. Okay, so I've got my buttons. And then on gold, okay, now I have to do something. I know that I've done something wrong, okay? That has nothing to do with you all. Okay, and I'm just checking to make sure. I was doing some testing this morning, and I had put my gold trade on the same chart as my bond trade. You don't want to do that. If I have a bond trade on my left chart, then I have a gold trade on my right chart. My right chart is going to be my top step. And let me see if I created a template, which I did. I'm going to load it. I'm sure I did. And I'm sure I would have called it NFP, I think. Let's see what I called it. Let me see if I did it. Yeah. Maybe I didn't do it with gold. Too bad. I thought that I did. Yes, look. Okay, 829.59 on the trigger. Bracket of 25. Targets anywhere between 10 and 80, okay? You could use anywhere between 10 and 80 if you want to. I would not get nearly that large because of the whippy nature of gold. I think that I'm probably way too big on my gold to begin with. I'm doing 10 and 49. Please don't choose the exact same targets that I choose. It's just not necessary, okay? It's not necessary to choose the exact same ones, okay? I'm using the target stop move, and our stop is 35 ticks. Of course, as I said, I know there's risk in the gold setup. There's risk in every setup on non-farm payrolls. Going to check our sync, our bracket width, like we always do. Believe it or not, the one big problem with gold this morning, it's very negative. I don't love trading a market when it's so darn negative. Gold's down over $30 today. So certainly I want, if the news is terrible, the real issue is, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, is you just don't know what the direction will be from the instrument. There's no way to know 100% what the direction will be if the news is good or bad. Under normal conditions, and we have seen gold trading fairly normally in terms of, if the news is bad, we expect gold to go up. In the old days, that's what we expected. If the news is good, we expect gold to go down, okay? That's under good normal conditions. However, that doesn't always follow, all right? It just doesn't always follow. Bear with me. So I built a new computer, and the new computer is definitely not working properly. There's no question. There's something wrong with it. I'm so aggravated over it. It's really frustrating. All right. Anybody have any questions about the setups? I did see, David, thanks for that heads up. I did see that Roaring Kitty does have a YouTube stream. Okay, Arthur, I was not able to help you yesterday because I never saw your emails. But We'll get it done sometime today. Arthur, keep an eye on your email. I have an errand after the trade. Probably afternoon will be best. But let's go through the bond breakout for Arthur, because he's having trouble getting his software to trigger. So let's say you're new and you want to set up a breakout trade. The first thing you do is you double click JOBB version 11 so it shows up under configured. Then you choose the breakout setup. Activate your time, 8:29:58. You've got the bracket of 7. Position size 1 is a 1. Position size 2 is a 1. Choose a target anywhere between 6 and 10. Choose a second target anywhere from 15 to 20. Choose a stop. The stop is 12. That's what we recommend. And then target one stop move. Okay. Can be break even minus whatever you like. Then you just scroll down. Make sure that your input series, that's something Arthur may not have checked. Make sure your input series matches the chart that you're trading. So if you're trading bonds, your input series should be bonds, the same symbol of your chart. Make sure your account is set to the account that you're trading on the chart. If you're trading a sim trade, your account should be sim, and then your charts should be set to sim. The label doesn't matter. It only labels, okay? It only labels. It doesn't affect whether you're trading or anything. It's just text. Everything else is default, okay? Everything else is default. There's one other question. Under optional mode, make sure it's on strategy internal, okay? It should be. I know reason why it wouldn't be, but just in case, that's what you have to do, strategy internal. Then you apply it and okay it, and your trade will show up on the control panel. Make sure that your account on the chart is the account that you told the software to trade. It'll verify under the account tab in the control panel, and then enable the trade. If you forget to enable the trade, it will not trigger, okay? If your time is wrong, it will not trigger. Okay, Arthur, it's working. So, Arthur, I also did something on my end with your machine ID. So it may not have been you. All right, I'm just listening to my headset. You know, sometimes I feel like a nut, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I feel so ignorant because I've been using investing.com for 100 years and I've never looked for a way to turn off the pop-ups. Who knows how to turn off the pop-ups in investing.com? I'll bet somebody knows how to do it. Anyone? I just want to double check my charts. Because I've been messing with my charts so much this morning and during this room. Okay. That's what I wanted to make sure of. So I'm just going to put I was just checking my management here. Triggering at 8:29:58. Okay, triggering at 8:29:58. Make sure everything matches. We have a setup. for after the news. I'm trading that on micros. I'm trading the gold breakout. There's no question the gold breakout can be scary, okay? It is on top step, so it could be very volatile, but I'll concentrate most on my bond trade because that's our cash account. To me, right now, cash takes precedence because I haven't built up my top step account. Last month I was sick. There was a very good breakout move on the report. I had COVID last month. It took me quite a few weeks to feel better. Now, I apologize, folks. That's a year ago. All right. That's a year ago. I wanted you to see a year ago move. Gold had a big move. Bonds had a profit. I also had a pandemic report. But let me show you last month. We had quite a move last month on this report. Bonds on the left, gold in the middle. Big, 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 big explosion. Big explosion. Okay. Big breakout trade last month. Big breakout on everything. And just to give us a little, you know what? I'm going to watch the market now. Let's just get ready. So look, I recognize, I think that gold is ultra risk today because it's trading at such a significant number. It's at the low. It's sold off so heavily. So I think you've got to be really, really careful, you know, if you're using gold today. I think it's got a high risk of extreme volatility. Not that bonds won't be volatile, but it's a tight range in bonds. Bonds, it's like it's waiting for the news. Gold, it looks like it already responded to a news report. The euro, we've traded the euro, David. Every instrument is going to move on the report. The euro to us behaves like the 6E. I'm sorry, like the ES. It sometimes has good moves, but it is sometimes very whippy. The instruments with the best liquidity are the best to trade normally on this event. The ES does generally have a lot of liquidity as a general rule, but at the time of the news, it can tend to dry up. Now, folks, don't forget, they are increasing margin for this report. I don't know if people realize that. You should assume margin is up on this report every time until it changes. We've got 1 minute. One minute. Okay, our orders will show up a couple of seconds before on bonds. Wow, can't win. We absolutely cannot win on breakouts with bonds. Terrible, terrible whipsaw on bonds. Gold is shooting to the downside. The news is extremely high numbers, extremely high numbers. Very, very bad report, an extremely bad report. I don't want to chase. I don't want to chase. Now, my gold breakout only hit one target. Bonds look like they were an absolute disaster. Bonds look like they were a disaster. They were for me. I don't know how everybody else experienced bonds. I don't want to chase here. I just don't want to chase. Extremely bad news. Extremely bad news. Bonds were awful. Bonds were awful. I'm watching now to see what opportunity there might be after. I just don't have levels that I'm looking at. I just don't have levels that I'm looking at. You know, of course, it might reverse. It could, but the news is so negative. There were so many jobs created. I'm concerned about the reversal. There's a tremendous push still in the squeeze to the downside. So I would be careful. I would be careful on the reversal. So it's pretty unbelievable. Gold was a nice winner for a lot of people, and bonds were not good. Bonds, not good at all. Definite loser on bonds. It was a whipsaw. It went up and down. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. Now, it's interesting that some people had so much profit on gold. I was only able to get 7 ticks for whatever reason. Top Step's data feed didn't give me the same profit that other people had. Looking at the YM, some people traded the YM. Type in what bracket size you used on the YM. I'd be curious. Now, what's interesting about the YM is it went up first. It looked like it went up quite a bit, quite a bit. Roz used a bracket of 30. Let's just take a fast look. A bracket of 30. Now, you can't tell on a 1-minute chart what might have happened in terms of the movement on the YM if we go to a smaller chart. Just to see at 8:30, there's the move. So there was a lot less movement to the upside than there was in bonds. The problem in bonds is it moved up. It moved up first, enough to fill, obviously, and then it completely changed direction. And that's what ruined the trade on bonds. That move up is what got us. Now that's a fake order. That's not a real order. Bonds are not reversing. Gold did, gold made a new low. It reversed somewhat off that low. It has reversed off that low. Let's look at the video to see if we could figure out what happened with bonds. Now, the whipsaws have been just really terrible this week. Nothing but whipsaws. 3 major whipsaws. ADP, ISM services, and this. And incredibly, gold didn't whip at all. Gold didn't whip at all. The safest instrument, and bonds has been absolutely the safest instrument to trade on this report. Let me show you the video. Just got blasted. Let me render the video. So here's bonds. Left side. It went up. So it was such a big move up. I don't think there was any way to save that. It just had too big of a move up. Watch. $35 was the bracket. 35. And it went way above that. Way above that. Went to 210, looks like. Still struggling. It's doing a little bit of reversing finally. Finally now. 7 minutes after the news. Definitely not a good news report for the Fed, in my opinion. Not a good news report for the Fed. So I'm sorry to say I missed that reversal off the low was the place to do it. And I suppose if you wanted to take the risk, you could have risked a bond reversal down here at the low also. How do you ever know whether or not you're going to get the reversal? You don't. But even the squeeze is still pushing to the downside. But I would look at a 30-second squeeze. I'll bet you it's not pushing to the downside. You can see the 30-second squeeze is way better to use to help you get into reversals. I think I'm going to start trading on a 30-second chart going forward. Yes, it was just there was no liquidity, ZLH. So it just didn't fill the order because there were no orders there to fill. That's what happens when the liquidity dries up. And that's always a danger on a report, that the liquidity could dry up. And it, even though it goes through the area, it doesn't fill it. Very, very, of course, it's so frustrating because we're protecting the profit also. We protected the profit with the break-even stop move, and it went through the order. Because if you think about it, what did we say? Let's see what well, also the fill. My fill was terrible. It was very, very high up the candle. In other words, as it went up, I got filled at 110, 175. Right there. 80, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It went 7 ticks above my fill. Okay. 7 ticks above my fill. And I had a bigger target than that. I definitely had more of a target than 7 ticks on my first target. I think I used 8, if I remember correctly. I just removed the software. Now, it's definitely been a difficult week with whipsaws. I do want to thank everybody for watching us on YouTube. If you hit the notification bell, you'll know when we're going to stream again next week. So thank you very much for joining us on YouTube. And everybody, let's look at the video one more time. So just looking, before we do that, looking at other instruments, certainly it looked like the YM had a possibly excellent trade. You needed a decent sized bracket. But if I were trading the YM, ES, NQ, YM, I probably would have used at least a 40 bracket. Roz used a 30. I think 30 clearly wound up being big enough. We've traded this report with a 70 and 80 bracket on the NQ. You can have such a big move on the NQ on this report. Let me just go to a normal chart. Now the NQ had a similar move to bonds, so it needed a pretty darn big. Did anyone trade the NQ? I don't know that you could have had a big enough bracket to make the NQ work, because it moved in a similar way to the way that bonds moved, and it looks like it moved quite a bit to the upside. Chantal, I don't know if you have to leave or if you left. I can't, without doing a deeper dive and seeing orders on the chart. If you look at a one range chart, that's the only way you can tell where the actual moves were. That one range chart. And right now the market's still pretty volatile. But when you look at the one range chart, this is all nanoseconds, just to give you an idea why sometimes an order doesn't fill. This is not even a second of time passing. It's still not a second of time. All of that movement is under a second. And that's why sometimes it's so hard to get a fill. What I'm looking for is the move up after we would have put our orders on the chart, to give you an idea on the NQ. Okay, there we go. So on the NQ, our orders would have gone on the chart in this area here. So 89.75. And then there was the move up when the news got released. So look at the size of the bracket in order to be safe that you would have had to have. All of this 89.50, let's say. All right, 89.50. What would this area was? 97. 32 ticks, right? There's 8 ticks. Let's say 89 to 97. $36 ticks roughly you would have had to have, and then it kept going up, kept going back up. So if your bracket was under 40, you might have gotten filled here long, right? It kept going up. Look how much it went up. I don't know how you could have traded the NQ and remained safe. I don't know that anyone traded the NQ. Now, Alan says, look at a 1,000 tick chart. You could do that. Let's see what that looks like. See, I don't see as much. I want to see every tick. I want to see every tick because I can't tell on a 1,000 tick chart where it started. Oh, was I looking at the ZN? No, I didn't think I was. NQ on the range. Just way too much movement to the upside. Let me see if I can find it one more time. So the orders would have gone on the chart. Our orders would have gone on the chart right in this area, 59. Even if they went here. Here's where 59 started. What's interesting is there was a down move first. And if you put the data box on, you can bet that there's no liquidity. No liquidity here, no orders. When you hover over a candle, volume 0, volume 0, volume 1. So ZLH, that's why even though it goes through a price level, if there's no volume, if there's no orders, you can't get filled. It just seems to me that the bracket would have had to have been very big on the NQ. I don't think anyone traded the NQ that we saw. But it's been incredible how gold has been working on some trades and being totally whippy on others. And then same thing with bonds. I mean, it's just 3 major whips this week. 3 major whips. Well, very disappointing for bond traders today. Very disappointing. But quite a few people made money. It really almost looks like the only people that lost are bonds. If you traded, type in gold, seemed to make money for almost everyone. Did you lose on other things? You tried to send an email. No, I have not. This is the first I'm hearing that there's a problem with our email. What's the error? Can you send me can you send an error to my personal email, Doc? Can you send the error? Let me give you my personal email. And anyone can use this if you have a problem. If you get an error, don't use it, please, unless you get an error, because I've never heard of this till just now. My personal email. That's it. Okay. And I'll check with our email people. I have because obviously I don't know that you're getting an error. I hadn't, this is the first time hearing it. So very disappointed. We're definitely going to regroup for next week. And I've got to try and do the reversals way better than we've been doing them now. So a couple of changes that I'm definitely going to make for next week. So here's a couple of things that I would recommend for everybody. I'm going to start trading on a 30-second chart. And I'm going to start using the squeeze to help me get into reversals, particularly when we create a new low. I'm going to use, does everybody have the squeeze? Does everybody who does not have a squeeze on their charts? Because it's very, very helpful. It's very helpful. Okay. So if you're not using it, you might want to send me an email and I'll send you a link. Hey, Brian, I'm guessing, do you have a phenomenal link for a free squeeze these days, Brian, or no? But send an email if you get an error at help@10minute trades. So the squeeze is this indicator here, Todd. It's a momentum indicator, and it's great after, it's really good after the news. And the key setting on the 30-second chart is the momentum length is 17. When you put it on, it defaults to a different number. We like 17 as momentum length. And then the way you read the squeeze, see how the color changed? It's a very simple indicator to use. Now, always keep in mind, obviously, that indicators are lagging, particularly with news. There's no question that indicators are lagging, okay? So you have to keep that in mind. But setting up the color on the squeeze is very important. It's not a ninja indicator. So that's why I'll need to get you a link. Okay, Brian, thank you. I have a lot. There are some free squeezes out there. So that's what I'm looking for. It was invented by, it wasn't invented, it was popularized by John Carter and Hubert Centers. They were the people that made it popular. But look, I know people are very frustrated this week. We've had some really significant losses. So it's just back to the grindstone, back to trading the good reports. Obviously, I'm not giving up. I've been doing this for a long time. Sometimes these whipsaws are just a problem. So we have to really consider, we've been considering other instruments. It's really the hardest part of all of this is picking the right instrument. It's almost impossible to know which is the right instrument when the testing is, 6-7 months in a row of excellent bond behavior. It's frustrating when you have a bad bond result on a week where you had other whipsaws. But bonds are a family money trade. Scott, the only thing that we do regarding wins and losses, you just have to look at each individual report. We don't trade every report, so you can't do a master wins and losses, right? You have to, it's specifically each report. And it's just a question of going through each report and looking at, what did you make on bonds last month? What did you make the month before? What did you make the month before that? Every report is its own entity. So when a report is a family money trade, for us, that means 7 out of 10 at least have been winners. And the hardest part of trading news is trying to overcome whipsaw losses. And I really believe that our only way that you can overcome the whipsaw losses is by being able to trade after a loss, like today, waiting for the right moment to do the reversal. Now today, the bond reversal, it was, look how difficult it was. 844. There was no reversal on bonds. Sorry, let me get to the right. Well, look at the NQ, for instance. That's the chart I'm on. It's not different the way we would analyze it. The NQ didn't reverse for 14 minutes. And then when it did, it went back to the low. Your stop, you would have survived that because the stop should have been under the low. So you should have, if you did take a reversal on the NQ, you should have survived it and you could have gotten back some of your money. I absolutely believe that's something we have to do going forward. Got to get some of those profits back after a loss. Part of the issue is the psychology of trading after a big loss. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. Looking at ZN, ZN looks a lot like the NQ, but it did not have as bad of a fake out. Okay, once ZN, and you had to wait, looks like ZN, you have to try to understand if it's done making new lows. Obviously, bonds went down, 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 down from the news, but again, the place you have to trade this is after it makes new lows. That's where the squeeze comes in. The squeeze started changing color at 8:36, and then the candle changed color 8:36:30. So you can enter there with a stop below the low, and we would have been able to take that reversal. That's how we have to do this moving forward. We have to cut the losses on the whipsaws, or those whipsaws are going to eat up our profits from the winners. I don't think there is any way around it. But it's not easy to get in a trade when you've had a $700 loss or a $600 loss. It's very difficult psychologically to take another trade there. A lot of times you feel like you have to regroup. But I really believe that that is our only way of recovering from bad whipsaws. All right. Next week, what do we got? So next week, we've got some big reports, CPI, PPI, some serious reports next week on the schedule. So we've got WASD, all right, a family money trade. We have the FOMC statement next week. probably the most potentially volatile event of the year. I think that we've got two countries that have cut their rates. I don't think anyone really expects a rate cut, but the Fed could surprise, I suppose, right? We've got CPI on Wednesday by itself, PPI on Thursday, pretty much by itself with unemployment, which is very normal, two bond auctions, API, preliminary University of Michigan. So those are the big reports. There's not a lot of little reports next week. We have a couple of earnings, end of the earnings season. So that's what next week looks like. All right. So I'll see everybody next week. We definitely, we're going to be having a release and a challenge for version 11. Eric hasn't worked out all the elements of it yet. So my guess is it'll probably be right before July 4th. Software's done. So it's just a question of getting everything posted, we have to have a new licensing system for it. But my guess is we're going to do it for pre-July 4th. That's my guess. That's when we always do our summer releases. That's what I expect. All right. So I'll see everybody next week on Tuesday. No trade rooms on Monday. So I'll see everybody Tuesday. And then again, if you're having a problem with email, please send me a copy of the error message and use my Gmail. But please only use my Gmail if you're getting an error, because I don't want to get flooded with emails. You know what I mean? No one else sees your emails if they go to my Gmail. So that's why you want to send them to our regular. But I'll give you my personal. And then our regular, I'll try and figure out right now if I see what's going on with our regular email. People say they're getting errors. Okay. Okay, everyone. So I'll see everybody on Tuesday. And I would just say, try not to be too frustrated. Of course, it is frustrating, but it's always going to be better, in my opinion. I think we'll have a good week next week. You're still getting an error. What's it saying, ZLH? Well, so send me that error, ZLH, please, to my Gmail. Send me the error, please. And I can talk to our email people. Okay. So everyone, I'll see everybody on, okay, thanks, Doc. I'll see everybody on Tuesday. Take care, everyone.